Biosphere 1 is the Earth, the planet we live on. That's Biosphere 1, and then Biosphere 2 is sort of the quote-unquote the replica or the model system of that. And this is a laboratory that doesn't exist anywhere else. My name is Joost van Haren. I'm an assistant research professor here at Biosphere 2, and I also teach at the U of A in the Honors College. When I came to Biosphere 2, I was very much intrigued by the large amount of biology relative to the amount of atmosphere. So it's a magnifying glass on how does the biology interact with the atmosphere. So that's the cool thing about Biosphere 2. Gases will build up so much more here in Biosphere 2, and so it's much easier to measure it. And the elements that I was interested in, carbon and nitrogen and water, and in the tropical forest, those cycle the fastest. All those processes happen much faster in rainforest than anywhere else, and so that's why I got very much interested in rainforests. So I started out, my first rainforest experience was here at Biosphere 2. Right? That was all like a 44 by 44 meter or like 120 by 120 feet rainforest. That's all I knew. And so then in 2005, I started going down to Brazil, to a city along the Amazon basin, Santarém, where I started my research there. The Amazon rainforest is the largest continuous rainforest on the planet. I call it the Sea of Green, because literally when you fly over it, when you come in and it's not cloudy, it's literally green as far as you can see. Walking through the forest is a magical thing, especially some of these forests, like the trees are like 150, 160 feet tall. Literally you need like 10 people hand in hand to get around these trees. And so we actually measured all the trees in these large plots that we had, and then we also measured sort of the structure of the forest, so how much carbon is actually stored in the forest. And then what I did particularly for my own research was to see what is the feedback between the tree species and again the soil processes. And that's always what I've been interested in, and sort of that linkage between what's growing above ground and how is that influencing what's going on below ground. Everybody thinks like it's very dangerous because the snakes and all these other animals, the jaguars and like all these. The most dangerous thing that actually happened to me while I was down there was that I was stung by a scorpion. I actually managed to grab it. This scorpion, it's a neurotoxin that pretty much puts you in a coma for anywhere between 12 and 48 hours. And it just completely blocks your voluntary nerve system, so you have no control over your body. So that was a wild ride. At Biosphere 2, there's no snakes, there are no scorpions, so the chance of being stung by something that really can knock you out and really do some damage doesn't exist in here. Nor can you get lost. It's only 44 by 44 meters, or again, like 120 by 120 feet, so you don't get lost in this forest like you can do in the real world. In the fall of 2019, we did in the rainforest the B2 WALD experiment. WALD actually in German stands for forest. And so really what we did during this experiment was to look at how does drought affect carbon and water cycling in a tropical forest ecosystem. How is climate change affecting tropical forests? We had over $3.5 million worth of equipment. We had over 4 kilometers, almost 3 miles worth of tubing running to all kinds of different locations. So we could measure the leaves and how they are functioning. We could measure the stems, and we could measure the roots and the soil. So we also looked at the different components of the ecosystem. So understory trees versus the upper canopy trees, and see how they behave differently. And then also we did that with different species. And then we can work again back in the Amazon basin and start putting instrumentation in certain locations where we expect these kind of droughts to happen. So those are the kind of key things that we did during the Wald experiment, and that you can do at Biosphere 2 that you really cannot do anywhere else, at least at this scale too, right? Because these are fully grown trees that have been growing here for 30 years. Actually, growing up myself, I did not necessarily like the classroom setting as best for learning. And so one thing I do is actually take students out and actually give them experiences, and actually through these experiences learn things. So Biosphere 2 is a great place for that, right? To actually be able in the rainforest to collect litter, to collect things, and then actually do measurements on that. Makes it much more real than just reading about it in a book. With the students, I really try to instill this notion of curiosity about them trying to build knowledge. And how do you build knowledge about your environment around you? And it really starts all with curiosity and looking around and being open and being receptive. To me as well, it's like I think I am very much smitten and in tune with the environment around us. And so I want to make sure that I have done whatever I could to actually try to leave the planet in a good state for the next generations.